America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to the Daily Gun Show. Come to you live, well, try to do it every weeknight at midnight Eastern. And we can talk about guns for an hour, but if there's nobody to talk to, nothing happens for an hour. So we'll see if anybody jumps in. I've been waiting for a bit after Clover's show corked us ruthlessly, and appreciate everybody that stuck around, but nobody's jumping in, so I guess everybody went to bed. If there's any questions out there, I guess you throw them out there, but they have to be coming in pretty quick because I don't like sitting here doing nothing. So there we go. All right, well, nobody's even saying anything, so I guess this is live, right? Yeah. All right, well, bad shows make good shows even better, I guess. Hate to make people wait up for nothing. And nobody's saying anything. Did this even happen if nothing gets said? No chats happen? Just 5 thumbs happened in the space? We won't say anything. Okay. And is that the show? I guess so. I don't even have a chance to take the dog out. Usually I have somebody else in here to say something while I take the dog out. Now she wants to go out, so. See, she woke up. She heard me talking. All right. Well, there you go. Bunch of nothing. Somebody jumped in. Midnight jumped in here.
Hey, G, what's up?
And so far, nothing. So see if anybody's jumping in. I guess it's too late. That's the thing is, the show didn't change for anybody. It's the same midnight always, right? I did set it up at midnight, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think you set it up for. I think you set it up for a little after, yeah.
Well, that was because of Clover.
Yep.
Southpaw's asking what the patch batch total reached. It was like 12.7, so almost 13,000. Pretty good for 17 days.
I made.
She went and laid down again, so she didn't like it. Huh?
Did you see C4's video on his patch panel?
Sure.
Where he used the picture frame? I did one tonight. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, we were talking about that somewhere, that like that's kind of clever. If you wanted to gaudy it up a little bit more, then you could take that wood part and jam hat pins in there. You could jam them into that real easy.
Yep.
And if you didn't want to ruin the pin or anything, you could just drill a small hole and then set the pin in there basically, so that it's like displaying them more than like, smashing them in there. And then I was saying even further, if you were to take like a angle grinder or something similar and just cut a little beveled cut in the top part of the wood of the top part of the frame, then that would basically be a small shelf. And if you cut a little beveled cut in there, a rounded cut, you could set coins in there. So it could also display challenge coins perhaps.
No, you'd also, yeah, that's cool. I never thought of that.
In fact, you could do that if you took the glass out. You could put that on that inside ridge of the frame and have them like just setting against the patch panel on the inside. Have coins.
Like what do they call it, a shadow box, right?
Almost, yeah. More like what I'm thinking is like when your grandma has a big cabinet for the dishes, and then the like in the back they'll have like a little cut so that those plates that are sitting up against the back so you can see them don't fall over. At least that's what I remember. My grandma had these like plates where they had like a little cut in the shelf.
I will say this: if anybody does this, there was different kinds of felt there. There was some that was like thin and real soft, and then there was some that was like real stiff. I got the real stiff stuff because it seems like it's gonna not get fuzzy as quick if you put, some patches on and take them off. But it seems to be working pretty good. I thought I had a lot of patches till I actually laid them out, and I was like, oh shit, oh, I need to get more patches.
They accumulate pretty quick once you got an eye for them.
Yeah. I got some dupes too. I guess I have some duplicates, so you don't realize that you've got, you don't have as many different ones as you thought.
Well, and that's what's cool about panels is that then, when they're just in a drawer, in a box or whatever, bag, then it's tough to keep mental track of them all. When you got them on a panel and then your extras are over here, you don't accidentally reach into the bag and give away your last one because you think you had 3 in there still. Southpaw saying, got the Daily Gun Show shirt from Spreadshirt. Looks good. Got the dark gray with the black. Right on. Yeah, if you would, take a picture of it or something and let us everybody see it because I'm curious. I don't think I've got one from them before. Or maybe I did, but I think the art is new. I think I put the words Daily Gun Show in the thing, I think. I don't think it was in there before. All right, well, so we're saying it's like almost 1 a.m. Eastern. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock here.
Yesterday saying he has all the patches on the inside door of the gun safe.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good idea to keep it. That'd be a good place to keep your extras, too, if you want to keep them somewhere, safe, I guess.
Not all safes, depends. Some carpet works better than others, so some of it won't really hold a patch.
Yeah, this stuff I'm using is definitely not quite as sticky as I think the other stuff would be, but I feel like this will look better longer. And it's not like you're going to be tossing them around, you know what I mean? It's not like they have to be like, you're not going to tie this thing to the hood truck and drive around town or anything,
I do put them on the headliner of the cop car and drive all around, in pursuit all the time, and they never fall off. With the windows down, I should have said. Because a lot of times you have to roll the windows down, shoot out the windows, and then that way, I'd be concerned that the patches would fly off. They don't. So on the gun channel side, which is the side, it's platform. It's a website, I guess. Nothing real fancy over there. It's not like we're trying to change the internet. All we're trying to do is change people's opinions of what to do with the internet and how to use the internet and give people some assistance and some inspiration and some ability to collaborate. And we ain't trying to be the easiest thing over there in a way, because what good is anything if it's just given to you? That tends to create spectators. And I think gun channels in some respects is an alternative to spectatorship. We're not trying to create, we don't encourage people to hang out who are simply entertaining, who are simply looking for the magical equation to create money out of the internet. Instead, we kind of cater to activists, people that are interested in creating awareness and creating content. And maybe they just are interested in creating content and collaborating with others who are interested in the nuts and bolts of it. So Gun Channels is a site that we built back in the end of 2013 when we saw that YouTube, a platform that has no real respect for our rights, certainly doesn't like our property. You can determine if they like you or not. Started to allow anonymous accounts to be used as weapons. Allowed anonymous accounts to really do some way more than the casual word trolling. They were really doing some abusive stuff that would have ended up having potentially having some real consequences. And by that, I don't mean anything sinister, more than by continuing to harass people who have no other intent than to pursue like ethical, logical Second Amendment agendas, like furthering education and exploring ways to communicate. People would come in and attack that to the point where people left the conversation. People quit efforting online, at least, to be part of a group. They left because of the harassment and the negative stuff that was happening, because YouTube fosters anonymous accounts, and because they allow that anonymous harassment by individuals who only are able to interact with others in a negative way. It brought people away from the conversation, and that is a tremendous loss when we have people that are motivated and interested and then truly capable of having a competent conversation about furthering the rights protected by our Second Amendment. When those people are taken away voluntarily from the conversation because of the kind of stuff that happens on a platform like YouTube, we built gun channels. Gun channels wasn't pull this equation off the shelf and build to spec. We didn't go to Home Depot and buy the right number of 2x4s and cut them to length and put it together and do it wrong. And that's how gun channels happened. And that's why it's not perfect. No, it happened because we just did something. I don't build stuff that has to be perfect. And I intentionally don't build stuff to be easy for the reasons I just said. We're not trying to build another place to hang out and sit on the bleachers, eat some fucking popcorn and get fatter while you watch other people act like they're doing stuff in front of you. Instead, we wanted to build a place that's more like the community access or the DIY channels on the internet. And we wanted to allow people who are interested in creating their own content on more than just one specific platform, a place to gather. And that's the comments that we're reading over here. Went off on a tangent, but fuck y'all. There's nobody joining us on the chat today, so you got to listen to that. So Pants is saying, what's the plans for the AK-47 Guru? That's 100% dependent on our Patreon, because it's all about time. As much money as I could probably make devoting my channel to talking about the Kalashnikov and its cool history and the people I know in the industry, I suppose, and the people I know who are collectors and exploring that kind of stuff, I would find that very interesting, except I fucking care about liberty, and I hate the idea that the antis would fucking use all that time I'm devoting to the AK to destroy our rights in either individual states or in individual regions, to the point where activists got discouraged and quit the conversation, like I just fucking said before. So as much as I'd love to work on AK-47 Guru, I have to keep the lights on and feed myself and the dog. So I have to spend about, I don't know, 60% of my time trying to e-bag, right? I have to figure out ways to provide so that the lights stay on and the servers stay on, so that I can keep doing what I'm doing on Tuesdays and on Saturdays and trying to bring people together. Because in 2020, if we're not already together, it's too fucking late to join up. We have to know how to work together before 20 so that we can be effective. We want to see shit like the M855 ban, which was effective at stopping the ATF's tyranny. We have to be able to fucking work together. So I wish I could do the AK-47 shit. I just don't have 20, I have to sleep once in a while too. So if I can get I'm not trying to eat back. I don't give a shit. The AK-47 stuff can happen, when I'm old. It's not going anywhere. I don't know anything about the new AK-47 stuff. So you can go watch channels that devote themselves to every little fucking new hole they drill in it and every little muzzle brake they want to add to it. And I can't even tell you about that. I'll be able to tell you about the books. I bought Vickers' book, and I have Stott's books, which are the best books out there. And I will be doing a video on Robert Stott's book sooner than later, maybe tomorrow. And whenever I get Vickers' book, I'll probably compare it to the other books that are in my library. But basically, if I had ultimate resources and I could get up and do as I want, I'd probably spend 3 or 4 days a week on the Second Amendment, and then one of the days would be on Kalashnikov. But I'm not at that point right now. I don't mean to be on a raid, but it's frustrating because I'd fucking love to, man. You don't even know how much I like to share the ammo. I mean, the ammo's fun. The library, I have the best library. I'll put up my library to anybody's. The bayonet collection, I'd love to just sit around selling my bayonets to people or giving them away. I just don't have the time right now. So I'm not even bitching.
Yeah,
I got time to do what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm in the same boat. It's tough. It's tough to find time to do anything that you want to do when you got to do all the stuff that you got to do, right?
No, I don't care. I'm not bitching. We have an opportunity in front of us to gather as a community, gather as an industry, gather as a bunch of people who just like to be activists or people that are interested in seeing liberty prevail. Doesn't matter if they're into guns. We've got a lot of potential to bring people together this next year. In the process, we'll learn how to, grassroots work together. whatever the words are for that, but basically will be an effective deterrent to the bullshit, back and forth of the Democrats and Republicans. I mean, it's going to happen one way or the other. It's just that the people that are interested in being part of that all have the best opportunity we've ever had. So I'm kind of frustrated, but I wouldn't be, if I had $1 million, I wouldn't be talking about AK shit more than a day of the week right now. This is not the time to distract people with stupid AK history. I mean, AK history is neat. We won the Cold War, but that history ain't going anywhere. I can discover that after our rights are secure, right? That's why we have rights, to enjoy the interest we have in them, and my interests are in history. But that's why I'm not going to focus on the tiny revolvers or the Saturday Night Specials or any of the cool stuff I'd like to focus on, not in 2019. Like I said, I've been on this thing since 2009. I've had years to talk about other stuff, and there's there used to be plenty of content. I guess it's on Gunstreamer if you want to go look at the old content, and I'll make new content going forward when it's, I don't know, when I can, I suppose.
Yeah.
So the Seven's asking when does sign up on Gun Channel's working? It's working. We got that fixed like weeks ago now. Any strong preference on brands of gun safes? Yeah, Fort Knox is the only thing I would suggest or recommend. I don't have any affiliation with them because they won't work with me, but they're the only safes that I know of that the steel is made here. Most of the other companies that act like they're made here, their steel is from China or Mexico. And most of the other companies, any big box store safe, I can't recommend. I don't agree with some of the people that say a safe is just to look at, or that it's just there to stop, kids. Safes are there for fire and for determined criminals. And I like the idea of supporting a company in Salt Lake City that uses U.S. steel, U.S. workers, U.S. shipping. And I just like them. They're a cool company, even though they don't work with me. I'd love them to support me. It'd be awesome if they, sponsor the tour or sponsor the show or sponsor anything, really. I'm not like Yankee. I will take sponsors, I suppose. Don't get them.
Well, I think it's totally to do it. You're up front there. They don't expect anything of you that you're not willing to do,
It's not like they're giving me safes. I don't need any safes. I would take safes from them, yeah. But I just want money. But I think they're the best safes out there. And they're not always necessarily all that nice to me. I've begged sponsorships off of them pretty much the whole time I've known them. But like I say, my Made in America stuff is too strong I can't respect a safe that just puts a name on it, and the steel is Chinese, and Chinese steel ain't from China. It's from our bridges, right? We tore down our bridges and sent them over there. Our cars, when Obama smashed up the cars, all that stuff goes to China, right? Gets smushed up and sent back to us in safes. I don't know, unless that's propaganda. Somebody can educate me on it. I don't know the process, but that's what I've been told. So I don't like that idea. Getting some big box safe that's just full of plaster of Paris and Chinese steel.
Huh. Do you have digital safes, or do you have old school dial safes?
Both.
What do you prefer?
Whatever's cheaper. Most of my safes were given to me or traded, so I don't have the luxury of payment of that. Fort Knox makes of both, so that you can override with one or the other. Depending, I would usually say, because I used to kind of help sell them at the store or whatever, when somebody, because I suck at selling, that's why I said I kind of help sell, they would not let me sell unless it was like some emergency, because I suck at selling. They'd be like, what do you want? And I'd be like, well, how are you going to use your safe? Because I know people that will leave their safe open all day. Look at Yankee when he does a chat. He'll just leave the safe open. Why wouldn't you? It looks cool. He's got them all in there nice. I don't have my safe like that. Mine looks like, I don't know, just all you see is ass ends. You see barrels and grips. You don't see nothing because they're all jammed in there. So if you got like them all nice in there, maybe you want to look at them, or maybe you got patches all over the door. But I don't do that. I don't sit in there looking at it. So I just have it as like, cram it full. So people are different. And if you're going to be opening it and closing it all day, that's where if you're going to be leaving it open and closing it, you might want a regular lock because you can just set it there. If you have or you can kind of, how you can kind of move it to lock so it stays from the door lock open and closing, but it's not locked. You might want that feature where you can just open and close it all day long, but not actually lock it. Where with a dial one or with an electric one, right? you got to pretty much spin the dial and lock it every time you close the door. I don't know.
Yeah,
And some people don't even care about that at all. And then other people care about the batteries. So, you know, if you're not worried about batteries, you can't go wrong either way. They wouldn't make both of them for so long if there weren't reasons for either or for both.
Yeah. I just have the, same boat as you. I bought mine used from somebody super cheap just because I never had one. And we had the kid, you know what I mean? So things change. And it's a dial one, and it's super slow to get into, you know what I mean? It's the only pain in the ass. That's what sucks about it. I forget how many numbers, but it's like 5 numbers or something, back and forth. So that's the only thing. I would have spent a little bit more and maybe got a dial, or the digital one, so you just bang in the numbers and be done with it.
I've seen different ways that people try to bust in. So with the electric ones, you can take the thing off and move it away, you know, take it away and put it somewhere else. And then sometimes that saves it from getting beat on by a criminal. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say sometimes. Like, that can save it from being beat on by a criminal, question mark. Because who the hell knows what, you know, only a dumbass criminal would think you're going to knock on the keypad to open it anyway. But I have seen the keypads like knocked in, like they'll smash them with something. Like somehow if you smash the keypad, it'll spin. Like that must be a concept because they do it all the time. So the thing is, you can take that off with, like, I haven't seen anybody try to like smash a regular dial, because I guess since that's never been in a movie or something, no one's ever, it's not like an inclination for people. But I've seen more than one safe with the digital things like beat on and hit with this something, smash it all up. And they only cost something to get a new one because the brain is inside anyway, so it doesn't do anything at all, literally, except kill a keyboard and a battery.
Right.
So all that stuff's inside. So you basically, if that happens, you just contact the company or whatever, and they just send you another one, I guess, or you buy another one. Plug it in and open your safe.
I've heard of people's going bad, or, you know, them getting locked out of their safe and not being able to get into it with the digital ones. That's the only thing that's what made me wonder, you know, if I should get a digital or not. Now I'm like, I guess it's not that big of an issue. Like, what are the chances that that's going to happen, you know?
Saying, do you ever stage your dial, like putting it all, like dial it all up except for that last number, or even like, you know, right next to the last number or whatever? And he says I used to do that in high school. That's what I was talking about, I guess. Like some safes, you can set them on that last number, and then you can just keep spinning the dial back and forth, just like, you know, to run, what do they call those things, the lockers? Like you can just run the lock closed, but then it's not, as long as you don't spin the dial, you can run it back and forth and just be opening the door all day long, but not locking it. Kind of the same thing. And then I wouldn't recommend that when I'm going to leave for a while and I'm going to preset my safe. Like, why would you do that? I don't know if anybody would know that you had done it, but there's way too many, like, I don't know. I would not. I can't imagine doing that. I guess the idea would be if you had to get into your safe quick, it was halfway staged. So
I mean, I never really thought about
right
doing
to the edge, but maybe like 2 numbers in and leave it on the second number, maybe, you know, and then so you just have one action. But I wouldn't have it like a hair's breadth from that last action, just in case somebody nudged it, right?
Yeah, I never really thought about doing that, but that's actually a pretty interesting idea. It's a pretty good idea. Yeah, like if your last number is like 40, put it on like 30 or something, you know, or 20, so it's easy to remember.
And that's the kind of thing that a electric one's never going to do, because they will forget after a certain amount of time or whatever.
Yeah, like you have a certain number of seconds. Certain number of seconds to punch it in or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never thought of that. That's a good idea. I have to start doing that.
Ozzy saying, and what another tip is, what you can do is take a marker and just, so you don't forget, mark the keys on there, that your combination, and then that way you can remember them. Or if it's on a dial, you can just put a little marker by each of the 3 numbers. That way it's a lot easier to remember your combination.
Well, I put a Post-it note above mine. Is that too obvious?
Maybe like instead of a dot, like a 1, a 2, and a 3, and then that way you know in what order to hit those 3 numbers right away.
Yeah, as long as you don't put like L or R beside it, so you know you go left or right, you should be okay. The terminal's gonna figure that shit out.
So Ozzy is saying he's making a framed patch panel for the patch batch. I was thinking about doing some sort of thing with the group. I don't know, some kind of after everybody gets them and then has a chance to do something with them, some sort of a thing for what's done with them. Either like that, a display or some sort of I don't know, maybe somebody does something like an unboxing video or something, and then put all those together and do something with them.
I actually bought a couple of different size frames, and I did that because I wanted to be able to keep all the patch batch ones together. So I bought a smaller frame that I think will fit all 12, and then I have a bigger one that has all my other that'll have all my.
You don't even know how big these things are. What if they're all Ranger eyes?
Well, then I got lots of extra space.
Yo,
what
what's
about
up?
instead of everything always being positive, we do it the other way, and everybody's required to post something with what they did with their patches, and then they all get voted on, and the 2 losers, 2 least interesting things that were done, have to give back their patches, and they get no refund. They just have to give them back. They have to default.
And then you can sell them then and make money.
How's it going, fellas?
What up?
Word. Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting my patches myself.
So it's Thursday. I kind of told everybody that I wanted them by Friday. We'll see when they start rolling in. But we'll probably, I don't know if we'll have, I think we'll have pretty much designs. Some of them are pretty obvious. And then a couple of them are secret. But, it'll be interesting to see some of them when they go from their whatever, like Matt's, how it's got the faded stuff. It'll be interesting to see how that goes from that to the finished design or whatever. Florida Carry has sort of a blue fade in there, so it goes from blue to white in a fade. That'll just be white, so it'll change the effect or the look of the patches a bit. They'll probably look a little more cartoony, I guess, or a little more simple.
I plan on putting them on my safe. Speaking of which, how would one go about sticking them onto a safe?
Well, what I do is I have these, how like if you get a business card or something with a magnet on the back?
Yeah.
You can just go to like the office supply store or wherever and get these things that are a magnet that's the size of a business card and it's got adhesive on one side.
Yeah, okay.
You can literally jam a business card on there. So I started buying Velcro for something and stuck the Velcro because the Velcro's got sticky on the back to the magnet, which has got sticky on it. And then you get magnet on one side and the loop side of Velcro on the other, right? And that's, the size of a business card. So if you put the corners of like 6 patches on there or more, depending on how many you can stick on there, it'll hold the weight of all those patches plus because it's plenty of magnet. So that's the way I recommend it. And then of course you can move it around, and because they're only holding like a quarter of the corner of the patch, they don't seem to abuse the patches as much as like, some patch panels, like a real Velcro patch panel. Like good luck trying to remove some patches from that. Like some patches won't let go of that, And so that for those reasons, I like those things. And if you want, I sell those on the store. I buy the Velcro in bulk and I buy those magnets in bulk. So, if you just went and bought a 2-pack and a couple of little pre-cut things of Velcro, it's going to end up costing you, about the same as if you bought them off of me, I guess. And I don't really charge that much. I just buy the stuff at like $30 at a time, stick a bunch of them together and put them in a little baggie with a gun, Every Second Matters card, and have them on the store.
Well, I got a brand new safe with 1 sticker on it so far, so it's definitely got some real estate to fill up.
And same thing with stickers. I hate putting stickers on safes because of too many things can, you want to reshuffle them or you move the safe or something. So take your stickers and get like, if you got like an insurance agent or a real estate agent that sends you a magnet, stick your stickers on those magnets. If you can ever get like a magnet that somebody would stick on the side of their door, like their business magnet, or ask me about whatever it says on their little magnet, you can get one of those, and that'll give you a whole bumper stickers worth of magnet to you just stick the sticker on there, trim it out, and then put that on your anywhere really. You can move it around.
Yeah, when I bought it, it's called Sports Afield, so it's like a cheap safe, but it's heavy and it's a fireproof safe and yada yada yada. And it's better than the last one I had, which was just a gun locker. So it's whatever. It's a 30 gun safe, but it had this giant sticker on the front. It was like half of the door of the safe was just this sticker, and then getting it off, like it just peeled like one little tiny bit at a time and left all this adhesive behind. I had to go to the store and buy grunge off just to get it like looking clean. You know what I mean?
So for that, use heat. So hair dryers are good at getting the sticker gook off, and then citrus. So I'm sure gook off, or what is it, gunk off or whatever. That's like a citrus base probably. That stuff usually.
Well,
I bought some stuff when I was doing sign. Like I have a vinyl thing, and I was doing vinyl signs for gun shows for a while, and I would take the old signs because he was cheap, and I would peel the dates off and then just put new dates on. And the stuff I used for that is basically like a concentrated Goo Gone.
Yeah, that's what it is right there.
It's pretty close to the same stuff.
I don't know what it is. It's not. I don't know. I don't think it's citrus based.
Yeah, I think it is. Rather
Maybe
than like petroleum or something.
Well, it's definitely petroleum because it's flammable as hell. Don't ask me how I know.
Well, I mean, I guess the citrus is still going to have like a solvent-ish nature to it or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, when you peel the sticker and it's got that, like, either it leaves paper or just the residue, then yeah, that stuff there should, you take like a piece of paper towel and kind of just soak it in that stuff, and that'll come off. Or you let it sit for a while, then that should right, come right off.
So, what's the last gun you bought, and what's the next gun you plan on buying?
I haven't bought a gun forever. I sell guns. I haven't bought a gun forever. I don't remember the last gun I bought.
Really? You don't remember the last gun you bought for yourself?
No, it'd have been years and years ago.
Oh,
I can't remember the last one I sold.
Huh. Now, okay.
I have no interest in buying another one.
And there's no gun that you would like to buy that you don't already have?
No, not at all. No, I've gone through my acquiring phase and my acquisition phases and my deliberation phases long ago. So I'm beyond that now. I'm looking at, my focus is on other things. So no, I guess probably. I think maybe whatever that Glock is I have. Is it a 41? The one that's the 45 ACP long side?
Okay. What is that?
So whenever that came out, I probably got. I know I bought a used one. I know this one guy that worked at another gun shop sold it, and he doesn't do nothing with his guns. He just buys. He's one of these guys that buys them when they're new and plays with them and then gets rid of them. He doesn't even play with them that hard. So I saw that one come up, and I knew it was his, and I knew I wanted one. So I basically got a discount because he had already killed all the, what do they call that? The depreciation on it, and there was like no use on it, and then he had put excess big dots on it already. So anyway, I got that one for basically enough of a deal that I went from 40 to that. Or I was carrying what was I carrying? 35. I quit carrying my 35 and started carrying that one. But that was years and years and years ago, whenever that gun came out.
I find for me, and maybe it's just me and the way that I carry, that Glocks are too thick.
Well, I don't care. I don't do anything that matters. So that's not a factor for me.
Well, I mean, if you put like an inside the waistband with a Glock, you almost have to buy a different pair of pants every time you bring your Glock out because it's so thick, No,
that's, like I said, that's a different thing. I mean, body size and way you wear your clothes and that, because I hear you. I just, I'm sloppier, I guess, and I don't get that. Doesn't affect me that much or whatever.
I prefer pocket carry myself just because it's easy. And like for what I do, I'm on my feet all day long and all night long and yada, yada, yada. So I never get to, relax and chill out. Well, not never, but you know what I mean? Like when I'm at work, it's a lot of physical stuff. So if I have a big, heavy gun on me the whole time, concealing it, that it becomes difficult to do, But if I have like I have a LCP, right? I love that gun because I forget it's even in my pocket until I get home and I'm like, oh yeah, I've had a gun this whole time, you know, and like that's how I prefer it. Like I'd rather have it on me and not even feel it than know it's on me every time I take a step and it's banging against my knee or it's banging against my ribs or it's digging into my freaking side or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when I carry inside the waistband, even with a big gun, it's the only time I really notice is when I'm dropping my pants, right? Like you're like, oh shit, like you go to the bathroom or something, you're like, oh damn, I've got a gun on. Like I don't really think about it too much, but I don't know. I guess that's all again about how you carry and stuff. If you got a big floppy holster outside the waistband or something, yeah, you're going to notice it, I suppose, if you're walking a lot. But I guess anybody who's just sitting,
I don't know. I've just never been able to find a way to carry inside the waistband that's comfortable for me.
Like I say, it's all different. Everybody's, I don't know how thick or thin you are, but that's going to be different from even the same person over the years.
Right, and like how much spaghetti I ate last night or whatever, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of true too, right? Or yeah, exactly. And then I think that's why so many of us have multiple holsters. It's because there's no one holster. It's not like we're all that uniform that yep, here's the holster that just works for everything. Like all these different factors come into play, and then as soon as you throw another gun into it, you can have 6 holsters for 2 guns easy.
So maybe I should get like a salad holster and like a buffet holster.
There you go. Yesterday's asking, do you have a gun that you would not ever sell?
Yes. I have several. Actually, I don't think I have one gun. No, I'll take that back. I'd sell my Mosin because I don't really care about it. But other than the Mosin, there's not one gun that I would sell unless, like, I needed a fucking kidney or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have to be pretty. Things would have to be pretty ugly for me to sell, like my 8mm, because that's like from my family. It's a family pass down. My grandpa bought it, and then I have a 22 that is from my grandpa too. It's the first rifle I ever learned to shoot on. So those would be. And the thing is too, they're not worth that much. The 8mm is probably $400 maybe. So there's a lot of stuff I would sell before that. And if it got down to that, I guess I would, but that's not a whole lot of money. It's not like I own anything that's like $4,000.
I guess I've also considered selling. I have a Palmetto State Armory AR-10, and I like barely use it. It just sits in the safe. It's too expensive to shoot most of the time. Like every time I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy some 308. I'm like, oh, it's like 50 cents to $1 a round. Like, I'll take some 9mm, or I'll take some 223 or 7.62 39. And the AK is just as much fun to shoot as the AR-10.
Yeah, AK is fun to shoot. I love shooting AK.
Yeah, I love mine too, man. I put a lot of work into it, making it fit me just right, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the thing about talking about selling guns for money. If you need a little bit of money, take the ones that you can easily replace.
Right.
If you got a Remington like a stock Remington 700 and you need a quick couple $100, it's like, I'll get a new one next year or something if I have to. But some of the stuff that you put a lot of work into or has any kind of sentimental value, definitely put those at the bottom of the list. I don't really have a whole lot of guns to be selling. You know what I mean? I think I have like 10 or 11, and a couple of them aren't worth all that much. So, if I had to say I was going to sell some guns, my 308s is a pretty nice rifle. It's a nice setup with a nice scope and all that kind of stuff. But that might be the one that would get me the most money, actually.
Right, and that's why I've considered selling the AR-10 because I don't really shoot it, and I'd probably get a good $500 for it.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of nice to know it's in there just if something ever happens, If you know, if you're the kind of nowadays, if you're the kind of person that has, you know, like a nicer AK or something like that, like that's, or a really nice SKS, as a matter of fact, too. You know, those can go for, those seem like they can go pretty quick. You know, you can get some quick cash out of them, selling them on the open market.
That's something I wish I'd like taken seriously when I first got into buying guns, because like
Mm-hmm.
I had a shotgun forever, you know, like I bought a shotgun basically when I was 20, and I always just considered that to be good enough, you know, and for the most part, like I was right. I didn't really go places where I needed a concealed carry, and the one time I ever needed a shotgun in the house, I had a shotgun. So was, you know, it wasn't like I felt underpowered or not armed. But once I actually got into buying handguns and more different guns, um, forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get less worried about selling them.
What's that?
Get less worried about selling them.
Oh, I mean, I kind of treated it like a white trash savings program. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just. Oh, I remember where I was going with it. Fuck. I was gonna say that I wish that I had bought milsurps and like nothing but, you know, like maybe a handgun, just something to have that I actually needed. And then instead of buying all these like flashbang ARs when they were really expensive, or the AKs when they were, you know, still, I guess the AKs were a little bit cheaper back then, so that was okay. But like all the ARs and stuff that I bought, I wish that I'd just bought, you know, whatever I could get for cheap back then. Because every single
Yeah,
gun that you could have bought, every milsurp that you could have bought back in like 2010 to 2015 in that era is worth more now than it was then.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about that the one day on my show. You know, it said, you know, do you think the days of those milsurps are gone, where you know you would hear about it in like in the paper, or like in a, you know, or the gun show or something like that, where they're like, oh yeah, they just found you know, a 10,000 AKs or 5,000 SKSs in a hole in, you know, Czechoslovakia, wherever, you know, in Europe, and they flood the market with them. I don't know, man. It's like the longer we go, the less chance that happening is. You know what I mean? It kind of sucks, because I remember that happening when I was a kid. People would talk about that when we went to like the gun store and stuff. You know, I remember them talking to my grandpa about it. You know, and then you know, you'd see magazines and stuff with like $69, you know, SKS. And
Yeah, I
now
remember.
milsurp isn't like milsurp isn't milsurp that we think of. You know what I mean? Milsurp's different.
I remember I went to a gun show. This guy had a whole rack full of K31s, like
Mm-hmm.
the Swiss straight pull rifles, and he had them for 125 each. I could have bought, like, I had like $600 on me that day. I could have bought five of those, man, and just hung on to them. And then they're what, at least $700 if you have a nice one. They might even go for more today.
Mm-hmm.
Easily $500 though per
Buy
gun.
them with the intention of selling them, and not have
Right.
any kind of sentimental value attached to them, and it's like a business move more than anything else. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, maybe
And you know,
like if you do that, like pick the best one out of the five, and that's the one that you keep, and then
right?
the other four you just keep in the bag that they came in and never even fucking touch them,
Yeah.
or maybe clean them up or something to make them look good. So when you sell them, they're like, you know, ready to sell.
Well, that, and
Like,
when you're young, you very rarely, people have the appreciation for the history and what those guns actually went through or could have gone through. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's when I got a hold of my 8 millimeter. You know, it's from 1943, and it's like, you know, I look at it and it's got Nazi proof marks on it, and you know, the Iron Eagle, all this stuff on it, and it's like, it makes me kind of appreciate what people, you know, what the, you know, World War II was all about. You know what I mean? It makes you think. I don't really think about that with other guns. You know, they just have so much history attached to them. It makes you appreciate them. But when you're young, you don't see that. See an old a rifle with a banged up stock, and you're just like, look, it's got all these dings in it and shit. You know what I mean?
It looks like shit. Like, yeah, that's the fun that you have.
But, you know, then you get a little bit older and you're like, man, I wonder where those dings came from. How did those dings get there? And, you know, and those, I don't know, that's the kind of stuff I look at now at gun shows more closely than anything else, is some of the old guns, just to see what kind of shape they're in, and it kind of makes the wheels spin in your head a little bit about, you know, what have they gone through? You know, who had them? How did they get to the United States? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's cool to hold that in your hand and be able to play with it and take it apart and take it out and go shooting with it, and put the bayonet on and play soldier. You know.
Yeah, well, that, and you know, you shoot a gun that's, you know, 80 years old or something like that, and you're thinking like, man, it's old, but you know, it's still perfectly fine to shoot and safe, and it's in great shape, and you know, all that kind of stuff. It's just, you know, and so much stuff nowadays, like, you know, everybody says that everything nowadays is disposable, you know. So you get a hold of a rifle from the 40s, and it's like, especially, you know, like, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experience with American stuff, but you know, I have this 8mm, and it's like, man, this is beefy, and it's built to last. It's built to be, you know, it's built to be rugged, you know. And then you get a hold of like a new action, and it's like everything's so lightweight, and everything feels like it's made out of aluminum, whether it is or isn't. That's, you know, but you know, I just, when I work the action on an 8mm, it just makes me smile. It's like, wow, this thing is so nice. It's so robust.
It's funny. That's not exactly what I think when I run the action on the Mosin.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm pretty lucky. It's mechanically, the rifle I have is really, really sweet. I mean, it's just the bolt size. It's actually way smoother than my new 308. It's just like butter.
I'd like to get a Springfield. Speaking of American rifles, like what is it? I forget what it's called.
1903.
Exactly. 1903. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my cousin bought a Garand last year, or a year and a half ago. That thing's a monster. That's a beast. Boy, that's heavy. But yeah, I saw a video one time of an old timer that they found his rifle. His son got a hold of his rifle that he was issued back in like World War II, and bought it somehow. I don't know how he found it. I don't know if somebody looked his father up, you know, through the serial number and found it or whatever. But it was a video of his son giving that rifle to his dad. And, you know, he's like, oh, yeah, I had one like this. He's like, no, this is your rifle. And it's like, it's like you think about what he would have went through with that firearm, you know. It like makes you want to tear up, you know. It's like emotional to think about what he went through with that gun, you know.
Wonder what went through his head when he picked that gun up, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure a flood of something came back of where he was and what he did while holding that gun before.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, like it would just been, I don't know. It's kind of an amazing thing to watch. I mean, I can only imagine being part of it. You know what I mean? Being part of the family and watching them hand it over to him.
Yeah.
I mean, holy hell. Some people, and that's where, I mean, some people don't realize the emotional attachment that you can have to guns and to firearms. They just think like, it's just a gun, it's a thing, who cares? You know what I mean? But there's so much attached to it. You know, it can have, you know, you could look at a firearm and it can tell you all these memories that you had with somebody. You know, I think about all the times I had with my grandpa looking at, you know, when I look at this banged up, crappy 22 that I have in this safe, and I think like, I remember when I couldn't hold it up. It was too heavy for me to hold up. He used to have to help steady the front end for me. You know what I mean? I was just a little fella. You know, some people will never understand that that's how important that is, or how true that is, you know. It's a bummer.
And how benign that is. So they'll acknowledge, they'll understand it because they might have that experience with a sewing machine or a violin or a guitar or a car or a wrench right? Anything, a spoon, a pot, whatever. But they'll suggest that a firearm somehow violent when it's as benign as what you're just talking about there. Memories and uh, you know, the tradition of bringing it, and people are talking about it in the chat, like what's it called, handing it down.
Yeah. And I've told this story before with that 8mm and my 22 both came from a yard sale. It was my grandpa back in the 60s pulled up to a yard sale and they had a barrel with a bunch of guns in it. And it was like 3 or 4 22s in this 8mm, and he bought them all for like, I don't remember, like $25 or something. That kind of stuff, like, if you knew what you knew now, then, or if your grandparents are alive and they would have had the opportunity to do that, like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, it's amazing to think about being able to do. Roll up to somebody's yard sale and be like, oh, I'll take all those guns. You need $20? How awesome is that,
Yeah, I remember when we first moved to Colorado back in, gosh, it was 1984, 85, something like that. And I was a little guy. I was real little. And the town that we moved to was kind of like a podunk town compared to like where we came from. It was like a 1-lane each way dirt road. They didn't even have a grocery store. It was a grocery store, gas station, hardware store, gun shop, all in one. And I remember going in there, like you have to go in there to buy what you need. And they'd always have this shelf that was way higher than any normal person could reach. You had to get a ladder to get to it, with all of these mill syrup and old guns on sale. And they were actually like, when we moved to Colorado, that's when they were stopping the gun part of it. It was like right before the 86 thing. They had like full auto, whatchamacallums, the mini 14s. They had full auto mini 14s there. I remember specifically, like, I don't know, like I just had something in my blood when I was a little kid. I liked guns already. And, I would ask the guy about them, and it's just weird to think about. Like, and the other thing I was going to say is they had SKSs for $75, and I asked my mom to buy me one, and she wouldn't. So hey, what was the Midnight Range? What was the last gun that you bought, and what's the next gun you're planning on buying? I asked G-Webs that, but he didn't.
Well,
he couldn't even remember the last gun he bought. So
last gun I bought, my AR actually. That's the only AR I haven't had, an AR, so that was the first one. That's the last one I bought last year, and then I've got a couple things on the list. I don't own a revolver, so I'm looking at possibly a GP 100 and 357.
Take of a gun there. That's a big ass gun.
Yeah. I'm not planning on carrying it really. I mean, I would like open carry it or whatever, maybe. And then I'm looking at, here's my top 3 on the list right now, is the GP 100, and then something like a shield, if not a shield. Something. I don't have any striker fired guns, and I wouldn't mind, getting a striker fired for carry and just sort of getting with the striker fired thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a 1911. I don't have a 1911. So I was looking at Rock Island, and lately, like last week, this auto ordnance sort of popped in to the picture. They're making all case hardened 1911. It looks really cool. Like a really awesome kind of conversation piece. So I'm looking at that, but it'll be a little bit. I mean, a little while. I got a little guy here, so money's kind of tight. But maybe a gun a year is kind of what I can do. So hopefully, maybe this summer I'll be able to do something.
Yeah, a gun a year adds up over time. Like don't poo-poo that.
No,
one day you'll be 50 years old and you'll look at your giant collection of guns and say, "Holy shit!"
Well, and that's the thing. I definitely have been, over the last couple of years, very, very, selective on what I got. I wanted something that I could shoot long range, so I got my 308 and put a really nice scope on it, and was my one, that was my gun for that year. And I didn't have an AR, so this past year, I went and did the AR. Actually, those were within the same year, but so yeah, I'm trying to my whole thing is to have different types of guns. So if my son is into firearms, I'll have I love them too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm not doing it for myself too, but I'd love for him to have, some different things to be able to shoot and learn on. And, if he's into it, then he has an idea. I want a lever gun. I'd like to, I'm actually hit my uncle up for the 30-30 he has. I used to hunt with that when I was a kid. So I've been sort of bugging him every once in a while. I was like, hey, when you're ready to sell that, give me a call kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I want a lever gun too. That's definitely on my list, as well as a 1911.
Oh, the lever guns are the 30-30 is so fun. It's just such a fun gun to shoot. It's just I don't own one now, but I just remember hunting with it, and it was just like, it felt so cool. It just you felt like a cowboy. You felt like you were cool. And that's one of the things where, over the last couple of years, when I've gotten more and more into gun rights and gun advocacy and all that kind of stuff, and people will look at you and say, why do you own that? Or why do you need that, or whatever? And I've realized that it's totally and 100% okay to say, because it's cool.
That's true.
You don't, it's awesome to have a really great comeback and be like, oh, I hunt with this, or, I use this one in my truck, or, this one is, the gun that I hunt duck with, or whatever. But, learn to be okay with the fact that this is an awesome gun and it's cool, and that's why I wanted it. What's wrong with that, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I've got two boys, right? One of them, he likes guns and video games, but he could really care less about a gun. I've taken him shooting, and he's more disinterested and doesn't hey, you want to go again? He's like, I'd rather stay home. My younger son, though, my 10-year-old, he'll sit there and watch gun videos with me. He knows the name of this one and the name of that one, and he knows what caliber this is, and he's like a little prodigy, man. It's awesome watching him.
Yeah.
And he's got more Nerf guns than I have actual guns.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, my son is 4.5, so he's getting to that age where he's got some Nerf stuff. But yeah, pretty soon I got to dig out my old BB gun, maybe teach him how to shoot BB gun a little bit, and maybe by next year have him on the 22.
Yeah, we actually got in trouble about that because I bought him a BB gun, and we're shooting it in the backyard, and I've got target set up, and we're shooting bottle cans and stuff, and the cops show up.
Oh, really? Are you not in your town? Or
in my town, in my neighborhood, you're not. I didn't get in any trouble. I didn't get a ticket or anything. They just told us stop doing it. So now it's knock
off having that fun.
Yeah, God, when I was a kid, man, there was this horse ranch behind my house, and me and my brother each had BB guns, and we would just go off onto the horse ranch. We knew the people who owned it. They didn't care. We never messed with the horses. We were always nice to them and stuff, so they didn't mind us being on the property. And we'd hunt birds and groundhogs and gophers and squirrels and whatever else we could just for fun. Spend the whole day doing it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. We used to go up to our family camp, and with me it was chipmunks. There was just chipmunks everywhere. So that was, I was a little chipmunk hunter when I was 8.
I learned that if you shoot crows, they follow you home, and then they caw at you every time you leave the house and get home. No other bird will do that. If you shoot a different bird, the other birds are just oh, I guess Larry's dead. No big deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, no, so for Bob. Right.
But if you shoot a crow, man, they're that's the guy. I saw him, and then they tell their friends, and then all their friends come by, and then crows are funny.
That's funny.
Magpies were my least favorite. If you know what those are.
I know what they are, but yeah, I've never.
It's bigger than a crow, and they're black and white, but they kind of look like a crow.
Oh,
And
really? See, I thought they were smaller.
no, dude, they have a wingspan probably almost double the size of a crow, and they weigh about twice as much, right?
Jeez.
And they like to get into your trash and like tear it apart and spread it all over. So you take the trash out and put it at the end of the driveway in the morning. You know, by the time the trash guy gets there, it's all over the freaking driveway. So
It sucks.
BB guns are enough to like injure them, but not kill them unless you just have the perfect shot. So you have to like aim for the eyeball. So yeah, I got decently good at eyeball shots on magpies from about 30 or 40 yards. Iron sights, baby.
Yep. I only ever shot iron sights on my 22. We had a couple different ones. One of them was a bolt action with a scope and a magazine, and I shot that one a little bit. And then we had one that was a little 22 lever action, little saddle gun kind of thing. I think that was a single shot. I think that was a single shot.
A cricket or something.
No, it looked like a 30-30, but it was smaller. And then it had a lever on it, and you would open the action and put the single shot, the 22 in it. It didn't have a magazine, internal or external. I don't remember what kind it was.
Mine was a Winchester.
Small.
That's just I guess for kids or something. That was my first gun. So my gun was my dad gave that to my mom, something like that, when they were married. She didn't care. Mm-hmm. So whenever I was born, they told me that sort of became my gun or whatever. So I consider that my first gun. And I was going to put that out there to what you were talking about before. We've had discussions before, when you start a kid, how do you start a kid? And I'll throw it out there for a debate since you both are fathers. And you probably already, at some extent along the way. But when I had a gun already, like I knew I had a gun way before I had any BB guns or anything else. I knew I had a gun, and it wasn't like I carried it around and I had it, but it was mine and I knew it. And when we went shooting, that was my gun, and I would shoot it first, and then I would shoot other guns also, but that was my gun, and I would shoot it every time, and then I would clean it. That was my gun. So, and then I would get more guns. So by the time I was in, for Christmas or something, I'd get a gun once in a while, right? So I would have guns by the time I was a little kid. I had guns. So when blah, 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 we never really had discussions about it in school or anything, but if it ever came up and ever, it was like, oh, I've got guns. Like, whatever. What are you talking about? I got guns. Like, it didn't come up this way it does today anymore. But anyway, I'm just wondering what's it like if a bunch of kids didn't have to be wondering what it was like or wait until they're 16 to get a gun. They owned a gun. Just like they could say they own a fire extinguisher because there's a fire extinguisher in the house. They don't own a crock pot, but there's a crock pot in the house. They have a crock pot, They don't own the wash machine, but they have a wash machine. Like, they don't own the gun, but they got guns.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was like, I mean, we had, my grandpa never had a gun cabinet. My uncle had a gun cabinet. My grandpa didn't really keep a whole lot in the house. We had them up at our camp. And at that time, he kept them up there, stuff, which I wouldn't do now, but back in the day. But yeah, I mean, I went to a small school, pretty rural. Just like it wasn't even a topic. It wasn't a topic of conversation. It was just like, so the guys hunted. If they didn't hunt, they, their brothers did or their dads did or whatever. And it wasn't ever like I would say the only thing that was a little out of the ordinary was when we were kids. Like my one, if one friend's dad had an SKS, and that was a little bit out of the ordinary because it wasn't like the bolt action or the lever action or the shotgun. So that was a little bit different where that was not your run of the mill firearm.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, it was back in 2006, I think. one of my buddies I went to high school with, like we gone shooting before. His dad has a Glock. Like I had a shotgun. We shot clays, that kind of thing. And he'd been saving up, and he bought a Rock River AR-15 back then, right? And I remember shooting that thing and just being like, "Oh, this is the coolest fucking gun," because like nobody had ARs back then, like barely anybody. There was only a couple of companies that made them. They were pretty exclusive, like as far as the pricing goes. It wasn't a normal thing to see someone with an AR-15.
Right. Well, I mean, I graduated in 90. I graduated high school in 98. So the ban happened in what, 94?
Right. Yeah, 2000, 2000 baby. Right with you.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I say, like, you know, people weren't buying ARs, and they existed, but it was still, you know, I was my town was, they weren't there. You just didn't see them. So you know, it still was a mentality of like, you know, oh, what do you need that for? What do you want that for? You know what I mean? So, you know, my buddy's dad had SKS. It was a little bit like, oh, it's kind of weird, you know? So, you know, that kind of mentality when I was younger was not out of the ordinary to have. Even for myself, I was not really into that kind of stuff until I got older. It was more like shotgun, rifle. Yeah, then I bought my first handgun when we bought our first house. Didn't carry when we first bought it. It was just, you know, kept it in the house or go to the range or whatever. And then when my wife and I, you know, I forget what happened. Something happened, and I started carrying it. And I'm still, you know, on the search for the perfect carry gun and the perfect holster, like you guys were talking about earlier. Somebody was talking about earlier, as far as having a ton of holsters, or, you know, not the perfect holster. You know, I'm kind of in that situation now where it's like, I just started not open carrying, but carrying outside the waistband, which is so much nicer than inside. And I'm still, you know, getting to the point where I'm not, you know, not scared that it, you know, that people, you know, if you see it, or, you know, if, you know, you bend over to get something and it shows. I'm just, you know, just getting to that point now where I'm like, yeah, it is what it is, you know, and nothing to be ashamed of. And I got a permit and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a gradual progression. I got it maybe a little bit later than some people, but definitely before others, you know.
Well, all I ever had for years was a shotgun. That's all I had, man. I mean, I bought my shotgun in like 2003 or something like that, 2002. And until 2010 to 2011 even, I didn't even buy another gun. And then it wasn't until I was like, I think I need a handgun, that I finally started buying anything else. But then it was like a bug bit me, man. Like I bought a handgun. I'm like, I don't like this handgun. I want a different one. So I bought a different one, and I'm like, yeah, this one's good, but not good enough for this. So then I bought another one, and then I was like, well, I don't have a rifle, so I went and bought the coolest one that I could, which was an AK. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't have a hunting rifle, so I went and bought a hunting rifle. I'm like, well, and that just, you know, pretty soon you're like, shit, I've got like a baker's dozen guns here.
Yeah, I had a couple of years back, you know, I had a guy that I worked. It was in the Navy, and started really getting interested in ARs, and he kind of spun me to the AK side. And I mean, I have an AR now, but yeah, an AK was my first semi-auto too. I have an AMD 65, so it's pretty cool. It's short barrel and folding stock and all that kind of cool stuff. So yeah, I definitely got the same way. And then I was like, okay, I've got an AK that I really like. I'm like, no, I want to get an AR.
Right.
It's just kind of a natural progression, you know, like you said.
Well, and then like the ARs, like I bought my first one when they were starting to get expensive, but before they were insane.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I spent maybe $700 or $800 buying a cheap one back then, you know. And then the insanity happened, and I'm like, well, at least I've got my AR. And then eventually the insanity subsided, and everything started getting cheaper. And I was like, oh, maybe I should build one, because now I can build one for like maybe $500 instead of $800, you know?
Yeah.
So I built like a $500 one, And then a couple of years go by, and now it's to the point where you can build out a cheap AR-15 for $300.
Yeah, yeah. I got a good. Well, what was nice about mine was I I got a really good deal on it, but because the prices are so nice, I was able to do some of the little upgrades to it that a couple of years ago I wouldn't have been able to afford. I got a stainless barrel, like a heavy barrel, and I got a nicer trigger on it, a nicer stock on it, that kind of stuff. Whereas a couple of years earlier I'd have been like, that would have got you something really inexpensive looking. Not expensive, but I mean like mil spec or something. So that's what's nice about right now is you can spend the same money but get something that's nicer and or customize it yourself. Yeah.
Well, like remember back in the day, go look at like a upgrade for your bolt carrier group, and you're like, hey, I want a nickel boron. $300. Okay, cool. That it must be worth it because otherwise they wouldn't charge $300. Okay, check. What else? Oh, I want the hand guard, right? I have the plastic one, but I want the free float hand guard. That looks cool. Quad rail, $200. Check. Okay, cool. Like I could show you my fucking quad rail gun. It's kind of funny looking. It's my oldest AR, but I spent all that money on that shit. I'm not changing it now. I don't care. I don't care if it's a little heavy. Like, no, thank you. I'm not spending any more. Works fine.
Right, and that was my intention too with my AK. Is I hate the fore end of the AMD 65, but I put a rail on it, and I think it's super cool. I don't care what anybody says. It's cool looking, and then it's I'm not the kind of person that's gonna. I just don't have the money to redo things either. So I love it the way it is. I want to keep it the way it is, and in the future, I'd rather buy another one than change the one I have. And they're not getting any cheaper, man. It's crazy looking at the prices now. Things have flopped so much with the AR versus AK.
Yeah, I mean, an AK is pretty much more expensive than an AR now. Like that formula, that was the old formula. Like AR versus AK. Like AK always had AR beat because it was way cheaper. Because back then you could get a decent AK for $400.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with mine, I bought an NPAP, and not really knowing a whole lot about it. But let me show you real quick here. All right, the stock on it was so big that every time you shot it, it would like punch you in the face. So I had to reshape it. If you can get a camera
you can tell.
there you go.
No, you can tell. You can tell.
Versus the other side, that's how it was. Oh, dude, this thing fits me like a glove now.
That's cool.
But yeah, I refinished all the stock on it and put like my own little custom single point sling mount. I don't know. I love this thing though. I wouldn't trade it for the world. That's not true. You offer me the world, I will trade it. But
well, it's replaceable, and that's where like we were talking earlier, it's replaceable. I mean, you did it once, you could do it again. It's just a matter of time and money and availability. I mean, there are certain things that you can't replace, and there are certain things you are. I mean, that you can, I should say, that are replaceable.
very true.
But you can't replace that gun that your grandpa first handed to you.
Yeah, I wish my dad sold all of his guns when I was a kid for some reason.
Yeah.
He had like all these. I remember him. He had like stainless steel 19. He had like stuff that would make Yankee jealous, especially with the age of it. So, G, are you still there, man?
Yeah, I've been letting you guys chat. I've been drawing this picture of Sarge, so I think it's pretty much done. Hopefully, it looks like
You're
Sarge.
gonna need more. You're gonna need more ink to get that mustache right.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it right, but that's what I'm getting. Should I make this more black?
Yeah.
Yeah, the color's off. Here, I'll be right back. I popped a pizza in the oven because I'm hungry, because I'm fat. I'll be back.
Let's see what's going on out in the chat. Hill Climb says he's sad he sold the AK. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Does that look better?
What's that?
Does that look better? Less brown?
No, hold on, sorry. Yeah. Mustache looks good. Lighten up the beard. You can put a little salt in there.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I know what I know how to do. That's it. So I'll play with it a little bit. But yeah, I was just playing around. I told people that are doing live chats if they need some help with that kind of stuff, I'd be happy to do it. So let's see. Great idea, G. What did I have a great idea about? Probably something good. Or something awesome. So thanks everybody for having a conversation. They were asking in Clover's chat, I don't know who was asking about if we're going to talk about whatever country is suffering the consequences of irrational delusions about firearms infringements. But no, we don't try to follow the news of the day. I originally built this show up with Bob, I guess 720 episodes ago or so. It was somewhere in the beginning of 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't even remember how long ago now. But we started doing this show as an alternative to the stuff that's put out there, the programming, the stuff that is sent by an agenda-based few who have the means and for a long time, the monopoly almost on the dissemination of information. So unfortunately, I grew up like that. I know a lot of other people grew up with programming. We would live our lives according to how information was disseminated, and it was literally programming. We were shown what society was like and what ideals were good to have and what it's like to do this and what you should pursue and what you should value. And it really did a bad thing for the country, in my opinion. And news follows that same procedure. And unfortunately, when news battled it out, they didn't try to fight to do better news. They fought for who could do the most shitty version of news. And whenever we start using the internet, I rebel against the old ass paradigms being shoved into this new media. We have the ability to have back and forth communication. We each have the ability to put up our own flavor or nuance of what we want to see out there. So this project, especially after 700 something episodes, is definitely not here to promote or enhance or amplify whatever their agenda-based stuff is. It's completely done with an intent to make people more interested in what they have to say, and it's designed intentionally to just to dribble out information. And I find more fun, more value, more everything in hanging out with regular human beings that have ability to post their own stuff with their own points of view and have organic conversation like we had tonight. And thanks to people in the comments for helping to direct it and be part of it. And the people on gun channels who help literally support it, not just financially. Of course, that's critically important, but also whatever it is, emotionally, like, humanitarianly. Like, if there weren't people on gun channels hanging out, none of us as human beings would be putting out content, and all the people that just sit around watching it all and being the engine that makes it keep happening wouldn't have anything to watch, and then it wouldn't be any fun because we wouldn't have anything to work with and people to talk to. So appreciate everybody for being part of it. You got there a bunch of nachos? You're muted, so we don't know. I muted you because it sounded like somebody was kicking the shit out of Tupperware.
Sorry, that was probably me. My bad. This is a Tonti's $1.25 pizza pepperoni with added cheese, jalapenos, and avocado on top.
Okay, it looked like you put the bad part of a piece of iceberg lettuce on there, so I was hoping I was wrong.
Yes, you were wrong.
I went over and my mom feeds her dogs the bad part of lettuce when she's making a salad. You know, that white gross part that you cut off? She throws it at her dogs and they eat it. And then she threw it at my dog, and my dog's like, "The fuck is this? What are you doing to this? What's throwing your garbage at me?"
There you go. There's my patches.
Your sideways patches. If you were to unvelcro those and shift them all 90 degrees, then they would be all the right way. Oh, there you go. That's one way to do it. All right. Well, if anybody wants to,
my phone didn't rotate.
Huh?
I guess my phone didn't rotate when I had it flat like that.
No, it didn't. I don't know. Thanks everybody for showing up. We'll do some more interesting stuff tomorrow, and tomorrow's Friday, so Gary has his show, Wild Territory. Budget, did he say he's not doing his show tomorrow?
Budget said he would, if he could, might go live out in the field, which means he'd probably go by, off of his phone or something, I guess.
And it won't be a show as much as just like a live thing during that time or something, if he can.
Right, it would maybe be just like a one-man show, I guess. Budget Show's great. If you haven't watched Budget Show, Budget's Right at the People is an awesome show.
It is.
It is a fantastic job.
And tomorrow I've got an interview with, all right, I can't remember his name, but the dude that's helping to run the Big Sandy Shoot, which has been going on for decades out here in the deserts in Arizona. It's coming up on the 22nd, I think. So having them on to be able to talk for about an hour, like I do, about what the show is, how they do it, why they do it, and how people can participate and help them get the word out a little bit on the big channel. So we'll be over on the Gun Website's YouTube channel for that. Tomorrow's Friday. It's Free Patch Friday. I don't exist without the store and Patreon. That's literally what I do at this point to keep me working 24/7 on the stuff I'm doing. And so we encourage people to purchase stuff at the Gear Website store by giving out free crap on Fridays. So if you want free stuff, then order stuff on Fridays. If you want to participate in the continuation of all this stuff, order stuff from the store. And sharing stuff is always a good idea. I'll usually put up some kind of announcement or whatever when Instagram is working. And sharing that always helps. I always appreciate the people that do that. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, G-Webs.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for showing up. Otherwise, it would have been like a 5-minute show.
All right, no problem.